I spent so much time in my life being scared by my thoughts. I'd think a thought, and then my body would be filled with like a jolt of fear from what went on in my head. And my experience is fear and worry and stress drive emotional eating because we eat to feel better. That's what emotional eating is. We eat to feel better. And when we spend so much time scaring ourselves with scary thoughts, then we turn to food to feel better. Welcome, everybody, to Confessions of a Binge Eater. Are you a worrywart? Guess what? Every emotional eater is a worrywart. We spend a lot of time thinking about the awful things that might possibly happen. That's otherwise known as awfulizing or catastrophizing. And we are really good at it. Why? Because overeaters are overthinkers, and we think the hell out of everything. We cover every base. Like, is it going to go down this way? Is it going to go down that way? This terrible thing could happen. That terrible thing could happen. And we work ourselves up into such a state of stress and fear that the only solution is to eat, to calm ourselves down. Now, if you're familiar with that pattern, you're not alone. There's a quote attributed to Mark Twain, which is, "I've known a great many troubles in my life, most of which never actually happened." And I think this happens to us a lot, that we spend so much time worrying and then the thing doesn't happen, but we've just caused ourselves so much stress and tension. So I'm here to talk about that. Recently, the entire US was affected by the government shutdown, and 40 airports had a limited schedule of flights. Well, I was on my way to Florida, literally right in the midst of it. So I was on my way to Florida, and I was on a text thread with a lot of other people who are going to the same conference. And so there was a lot of chatter in the text thread about, are you nervous about the flight schedule changes? What do you guys think about this? And I just observed the text thread and kept quiet. Because what I know from bitter experience is that there's no point in worrying. There's no point in worrying. Now, this is not something I came by easily. Again, bitter experience, a lot of worry, a lot of fretting, a lot of working myself into a frenzy that turned into a binge. So the best thing I can do is just keep moving forward and stay out of my head about what terrible things could possibly happen. Now, it's not easy for an emotional eater to do that because we are overthinkers by nature, and we are also fearful. More than your average person, we worry. Okay? Living in our heads and overthinking about all the fearful, worrying things that could happen is very common for us. But I have learned with time and practice and amazing tools like meditation and prayer and writing, journaling out my feelings, I have learned to get out of my head and into the present. And so I, as best as I can, don't think about the terrible things that could happen when 40 airports are limiting flight schedules. So here I am. I fly to Tampa, no issues. I'm in Tampa, and I am taking a trip 3 days later to South Carolina. I stay out of my head. I observed conversations among other people that were fraught with worry. There is no point in my worrying about it. So I got on a plane and I flew to South Carolina. No issues. 2 days later, I was set to get on a plane again and fly back to Los Angeles. I spent no time thinking about whether the flight was going to go or not, whether there would be delays. There's no point in it. It doesn't serve me. It only makes me scared. I spent so much time in my life being scared by my thoughts. I'd think a thought, and then my body would be filled with like a jolt of fear from what went on in my head. And my experience is fear and worry and stress drive emotional eating because we eat to feel better. That's what emotional eating is. We eat to feel better. And when we spend so much time scaring ourselves with scary thoughts, then we turn to food to feel better. So I'm not saying this is easy. It's going to take practice, and it's going to take a lot of awareness of where your mind is going with any certain situation. But I promise you, if you stop speaking words of worry, like, I don't know what's going to happen, my flight might get canceled, it'd be so terrible to be stuck at the airport, I can't afford to fly home later, blah, 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 blah. All those thoughts are just thoughts and worry that have nothing to do with reality because they haven't happened yet. It's in the future. Anything in the future is not real. And you may say, yeah, but it could happen, but it's not happening now. So I want to encourage you to get present right here, right now. Deal with what you have. If my flight had been postponed, it would have been postponed, but I would have expended no time and energy around it. I would have taken my next steps to get on the flight whenever it was leaving or rearrange my travel to the airport. But dealing with the facts in the present moment really saves me from so much worry and fear and just mind chatter that takes me out of the present. Worry and fear takes us to the future, right? It makes us feel bad unnecessarily. I don't need to feel bad. I want to be here in the moment and feel good in the moment. And getting out of my head and out of worry is so helpful for me. You know, several years ago, I had a dream of building a house on a beautiful piece of property, which I purchased. I also hired my realtor who helped me buy the property. And this is part of the deal, is I hired him to help me with all the details of it so I didn't stress. Because Heal Your Hunger is my jam. And I want to help people heal. And I don't want to be distracted by building a house. And so I made the commitment to myself that I'm hiring this person and I'm hiring God so that I don't get sucked into stress and worry and distraction, because my main jam is to help people heal from emotional eating. Well, I had to remind myself of that decision time and time again because there were issues, there were problems, there were changes in the market. And so I, time and time again, said, Tricia, remember your commitment. And I gave it to God. I said, God, you're in charge. Thanks for working out the details. You're in charge. Alex is doing his job. I'm going to focus on what I do best and how God has me here to do. But I have a dream and I'm going to keep pursuing this without worry, because the worry, that is what I can't deal with. And it sucks my time, it sucks my energy and makes me feel terrible. And I don't want to feel bad and I don't want to overeat to feel better. I have to say that ultimately, I couldn't afford to build the house. I designed the house, which was super fun, and then I couldn't afford to build the house that I designed. And so I made a decision to sell it. And that was scary because the market was turning down. And I reminded myself of my commitment. Tricia, no worry, no stress. God's in charge. Give it to God. And all the way through that process, I kept that commitment for the most part. Not perfectly, of course. And the property sold. I think I came out roughly at even. And that was super lucky, not lucky, God. But the point is, I never wasted energy on worrying about any of it. So it sold, I broke even, lessons were learned, and I moved on with my life. But I didn't get sucked into hell by worrying and fretting. And I was so glad. It was such a good exercise for me. So I'm just here to say that it's a choice. It's a choice to awfulize about all the terrible things that could happen and dwell on that. Work with the facts of what's happening now. And most things that are happening now are manageable. There's a solution for whatever problem we have right here and right now. Does that make life easy? No, it doesn't. You know, I designed a house I couldn't afford to build. Oh well, it was fun designing it. And now I don't really have a yen to build a house because I kind of feel like I did it without spending the money. So there's always a silver lining, but I'm just glad that I kept my commitment and I gave it to God, and God worked it out. And I don't think it would have worked out better had I spent a lot of time worrying and fretting about it. I think God was perfectly capable of working it out without my input. So I don't know if that example helps, but that's what happened. That's what happened. That's what I learned. And when the government shutdown happened and flights were canceled, I didn't spend any time worrying about it. I just dealt with the facts and what was in front of me, one day at a time, one flight at a time, and things worked out. So I'm here to say you don't have to worry about everything. You actually have a choice. Now, you may need some help to get out of worry, because I understand it can be a loop. But again, things like meditation and prayer and writing and talking and walking. Okay, I walk and pray daily. It helps me so much. All these things can help us get out of our heads into our hearts and turn the hard things over to God so God can work out the details, because God's so much better at doing that than we are. I hope this helps. I love you so much. I'll see you in the next show. If you're ready to get off the dieting roller coaster ride and finally make peace with food and with your body, talk to a Heal Your Hunger mentor about what steps you need to take based on your own history with food and weight. Go to healyourhunger.com and register for an emotional eating breakthrough session and see how fast you can experience real change. It's a complimentary evaluation, but there are limited spots available. So go to healyourhunger.com and register to speak with a mentor today.